What's up, guys and gals? Your host with the most, Griever, as always, bringing you guys the Hunters Guild Red Hood chapter number 6. And I'm going to be absolutely honest with you. This chapter felt a little slow to me. I feel like we've gone through the prologue part of this already, and it feels like, alright, we're going to be sticking with this adventure slow build-up thing for a while. I don't know if it's the right decision given the current climate of Shonen Jump and mangas in general to start off with such a slower pace. Like, yeah, we had action and we got introduced to high-ranking villains and stuff, but having our protagonist be the slow learner and the slow burn, I don't know if it's the best way to do this series thus far. Though I didn't mind Chapter 6. We got introduced to quite a few things, some concepts, like the wolf is probably made out of that wolfium stuff, and the fact that he was trained by the mayor to cut wood at, like, the mayor seemed to be more of a, maybe those weren't the mayor's bones. Like, the mayor seems to be this, like, much more mysterious person than we gave him credit for. And even in this chapter, Grimm says, oh, so you were woodcutting with that axe this whole time. Well, that would explain quite a bit. If the axe was made of wolfium, why you were able to cut down the belly of that werewolf so easily. You couldn't do that with a normal axe, nor a normal kid's strength. But you've been woodcutting this whole time, and certain knights are given training because it's a full body workout because you use so many, you use so many muscle groups to chop wood constantly day in and day out. So there's definitely that aspect of it, right? But either way, as I said, so there were some interesting facts in this chapter and some cool designs and stuff. And once again, I think this is just a bridge chapter into the next chapter where we enter the Hunters Guild at the end of the chapter. We finally reach their where the camp takes place, which is the place where they train the new hunters. And of course, it's one of those things. The current that new swordsman manga is doing the same thing. Like, 1,000 people apply, but only like 5% ever get through, to the next round. That kind of idea. We've seen that done so many times in so many mangas. The hunter's exam, the chunin exams, the whatever. Like, to take your pick of a tournament arc or a tournament training or entering into a high level place. It's always less than 1%, less than 10% of all applicants actually make it through the first week. So we're doing that classic shonen stuff, and that's fine and everything. But overall, the chapter looks really nice. We get some new designs. Like, I love this idea of this lumbering giant, which is this like moving tree thing. It's like he's made out of trees, but he's also like we don't get a full cut of him, but it seems to just be walking around with a giant freaking tree, absolutely massive. Apparently, lumbering giants are peaceful because Grimm just says ignore it. They're taking this hermit crab sort of carriage thing. I'm really reminded of Toriko here. Like, we're discovering all these fantastic beasts sort of idea. Like, we got this lumbering giant thing, looks like an ent, that worked out. We have hermit crab travel, you travel on the hermit crab sort of idea. That's very Toriko-esque sort of idea. And they're heading towards the border port, the Hunters Guild HQ, the borders port, and everything like that. So this is where, once again, Grimm, they sort of reminisce, like, all right, we'll take you to the Hunter's world. They just reminisce at the end, extended to the conversation at the end of the last chapter, sort of like, I want to go and hunt werewolves and everything like that. I want to save the world sort of idea. And Grimm says, yeah, fine, that's pretty naive, that's pretty pipe dream childlike, but you're coming with me. So, classic shonen stuff, right? So, this is where we are introduced to two other characters, not just the tractor hermit crab named Amber, apparently. So, apparently, the hermit crab has a name, and it is kind of a cool design and everything. Like, I am very interested in the design. It's like a box. It almost looks like a prison. It's like a prison on top of a like a transport unit. Well, it is a transport unit, so technically, but it's for the Hunters Guild and stuff. It's got the wheels on the back and the hermit crab stuff, so that's pretty cool. So this is where, once again, we get the explanation that I already talked about with the wood cutting. Some knights are trained that way. There's a kingdom that uses its training regimen. So the mayor was probably one of those knights, right? The fact that he lost against the werewolf, I'm not totally convinced that those are the mayor's bones at this point. So maybe there's, because we get the shot at the beginning of the mayor looking down like, yes, you will do the wood cutting from now on, So I don't know. I'm not totally convinced that the mayor's truly gone. So Grimm thinks about it, that it's made of wolfium and stuff like that, but she also thinks like there's too many coincidences. Like, what's going on with the hamlet? Like, the mayor, clearly knew the training regimen of a faraway kingdom for woodcutting as a good training regimen, had a wolfium-made axe, defended them, killed werewolves in the past before. 2 members of the Red List showed up, and we get the idea that we're told that Cinderella, we're not really told the rank of Cinderella, the witch, but we are told of that Lycaon is the alpha of all werewolves. So he is the top werewolf. And just, she's thinking, like, everything is just far too convenient. What was going on in that hamlet? Like, what was so special about that hamlet? Everything just added up way too good. So, Vilu wants to know, and this is good questions. Like, once again, as I said, I feel like the slow burn of this chapter, it was a little lackluster for me at first, but we are getting good information, and we're not beating around the bush with like, okay, too many crazy things have happened in the last 24 hours. Like, what it's all too convenient. What's the real what's the story? What's really going on? Then we get introduced to 2 characters I actually really like, the older brother and younger sister, the hermit crab drivers. Now, apparently, they are not hunters. They are not hunters. Tyliti and Militi, I don't know how to say those names, but they're actually pretty cool characters. I like the characters. Their designs are really nice, and they do some badass maneuvers, but they tried to become hunters and failed, so they just do little, like, errand boy missions for the Hunters Guild. So they are part of the Hunters Guild, but they're not hunters, so to speak. So they're the hermit crab drivers. We see this giant frigging armored crab, and it's like, and it's huge, and it's got tanks on it and everything and stuff, and they explain about it. This is an armored crab. It's a species that basically sticks things to its body as it travels. It, what breathes out of its mouth is a paste, sort of disgusting, but then sticks things on. But usually it doesn't fire at them. Usually they're pretty harmless. They're pretty timid and stuff. But since this road leads to the outskirts of the bay, it might be a good idea to sort of try to redirect it. Now the thing opens up fire because there's another crab, a plier crab, is inside, and this thing looks disgusting. It's inside a human skull. Once again, the one good thing about this chapter that I will acknowledge 10 out of 10, multiple different monster and character designs. They are all unique. They're all really cool. I definitely really enjoyed that part of the chapter, because the plier crab, like, coming out of the bottom part of a skull, that's gross but cool. The armored crab idea, getting some Toriko vibes from monster designs here, and that's not a bad thing, So definitely really cool there. Once again, they decide to take out this thing because Grimm can't. And she says that she was, and we sort of guessed this from the end of the last chapter, but Grimm has the classic shonen or the woman thing, the chibi that turns into the adult and back and forth. It's always magic, it's always a curse, it's always a key, it's always something like that. And in this case, it's a witch's hex. And it turned her body into that of a child. So at this point, she has this thing, very convenient. I will admit, all these hunter tools seem rather convenient, but that being said, it's that she has the layer clock to transform back into her adult form. Now, I say convenient, but if it is a witch's hex, I'm sure the Hunters Guild, with all the resources and stuff, can be like, okay, we can reverse the effects of a hex for a limited time. It's not a cure, it's a sort of a supplement. It's a pain reliever, if you will. It's a half measure sort of idea, right? So even though I find it convenient at first, upon the reread, I sort of sat there and I said to myself, well, actually, with all their resources and stuff, it's no different than somebody having a disease and, like, they can't cure it completely, but they can manage it, right? There's ways from you have death to cured, and there is a happy medium sort of idea, right? And in this case, it only works for about 3 hours, she says. Not that there's not a true time limit, but she says it works for a few hours and only once per day. And I'm useless in this tiny form. I'm useless in this form. She admits it. She doesn't have the strength of the power. So, but she does admit that the brother and sister, the hermit crab drivers, they are super skilled. She uses this awesome looking sniper ricocheting thing. It's like, it looks like a giant, like, shotgun sort of idea, but it's like a snipe scope. It's really freaking cool. And then he uses knives, it looks like. He dual wields a pair of knives. And it's just like, okay. And they're both, like, different. It looks like like daggers you would get in Skyrim, and friggin' a sword you would find in an Elvish lore and stuff, like these really classic looking sword designs. And so the thing, of course, is freaked out with all the ricocheting shots inside the tank, so it crawls out and he just eliminates it completely. So then it's all good. Now, this is where Vilu wants to say, he wants to, at the end of the chapter, basically says, like, wow, I want to be hunters as good as you guys. And they admit, like, we flunked out. We couldn't pass the camps. We're not hunters. The training camp, it's 3 months of hell. You'll go through yourself soon enough. So we're going to get the training arc. So though I said the pacing on this chapter felt a little slow, at least we're picking up the pace by the end of the chapter. We're already introduced to the idea that there's going to be a 3-month training arc. That's going to be a few chapters at least, and then he'll come out seemingly pretty badass. So we might actually time skip after the first day in the training camp or something. I'm sort of still expecting that time skip. Maybe a small one, maybe a big one, but I'm sort of expecting that. Like, this all feels almost like setup, prologue, prelude. Doesn't really feel like the true beginning of the story to me quite yet, but maybe I'm wrong and this is the way we're going to follow it from here on out. Either way, still really enjoying it, and at the end of the day, they find the fortress. It looks absolutely ridiculous, but sort of, once again, unique design. We're sort of getting a mixture of fairy tale meets steampunk. You know, it feels like somebody got the steampunk skin in Minecraft and built all this stuff. You know what I mean? So, and that's not a bad thing. That's not a bad thing. I think it's actually unique. I think it's pretty cool. And this is the Guild's mobile research facility, which, as I said, the designs, the graffiti on it looks ridiculous. And the both camp and fortress called the Ironworks. And then we see, at the end of the chapter, we don't see a face, but we see someone that, well, definitely got the Alex Louis Armstrong, Major, except I believe I like this new character's pecs a lot more than Alex Louis Armstrong's. I can't put my finger on why, but I just find the pecs have a more roundness, have a definition that I just prefer. Maybe it's the art style. I don't know. But either way, we get a shot, a headless shot of just from the chest, basically from the waist up to the neck, saying, how many will survive this round? So we have an instructor or a hunter or somebody in this fortress. We're probably going to meet them next chapter. That's pretty exciting. Once again, I feel like, honestly, even just talking about it and just quickly paneling through the chapter as I went through the review, I feel like I enjoyed this chapter a lot more upon now my, I guess, 3rd reread. And I might have been a little harsh on the pacing because though the pacing is sort of going a little slow for me as a story arc overall at the beginning, once again, it is only 6 chapters in. And that being said, we got a lot of cool stuff in this chapter. We got a lot of information. We got Grimm just speaking the facts, not fourth wall breaking, but basically going, okay, like, this is too cookie cutter. This is too easy. Why is everything happening all at once? Why today? Why now? Why all these people? Why this? Why that? Questioning all the real stuff that in universe you would question, you know, no problems for 20 years, and then all of a sudden, boom, 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 everything happens at once. It just doesn't make sense. And then we get new character designs, get fantastic monster designs, and world building, and the steampunk aesthetic I was not expecting, but I sort of like. It sort of fits the world. It's reminding me of Trigun or Vampire Hunter D or any of those futuristic, post-apocalyptic sort of feeling of the worlds, like everything regressed to like the 14th century, but we still have like some technology from like the 20th century sort of idea mixed in. I always sort of like that. And then you have the fantastical creatures. So definitely much more interested in the world building in this chapter than anything else. But yeah, I thought the chapter was pretty solid overall now upon my 3rd reread, so to speak. So I'll even take back that the pacing is not as bad as I first said. So yeah, but what did you guys think of the chapter? Like, was I right in my initial thing saying, you know what, not the best chapter, or wish there was more to it? But now, as I said, I read the chapter twice. Then here, when I do my review, I usually just pan through things to make sure I don't forget anything as I'm recording. And overall, actually, I think I was mistaken in my first initial thoughts there. So, but what do you guys think of the chapter? I actually think it's a lot better than I first gave it credit for. So, like, comment, subscribe as always. You know, please forgive me for my Hippocratic tendencies from the beginning of the video till now. Apparently, I changed my mind in 13 minutes. Whatever. But either way, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Drink responsibly as always, and we will see you back here next time for Chapter 7 of Hunter's Guild, The Red Hood. definitely a pretty decent manga thus far. Looking forward to seeing more of it. See you next time, ladies and gentlemen.